Good morning, brother. This is Shay. The video today is going to be a deep dive on the question that I hear comes up most often. Why has this happened to me? I must find out what's going on, what's caused this. So if you are experiencing sexual performance anxiety or struggling to get hard or stay hard, and you're asking yourself the question, I just need to understand why this has happened to me. Or if only I could understand why this has happened and then I would be able to figure it out, then I invite you to stay here and listen to this as we work through it together, because I'll be talking through what I see comes up the most as to why this happens. I've spent some time writing this down to just break it up and make it more understandable, and then ultimately figure out where do we go from here. Because the question of why has this happened to me isn't actually the question that helps us get the result that we want. So if you stay with me and take this information on seriously, the information that I'm about to go through, then you will have a new understanding of why this has happened to you and why it happens in general, and then also what to do about it so that you can avoid having to take Viagra every single time you have sex, or you can avoid this embarrassment of what if I can't stay hard. So let me start with the reasons that I see the most often, or the causes that I see the most often. And I've put these into two categories in my mind. So one is external causes and the other one is internal causes. So first of all, I'm going to go through the external causes and then we'll go on to internal. There's a long list of external and internal, but I've just tried to summarize the ones that seem to be the most regular that come up. So first up, and this is in no particular order, but for external causes, okay, porn. I'm just going to put it out there. You're probably already aware of this if you've been doing research. Right, porn has an impact, and there's a video that I've done that is why does porn lead to ED. So I won't go into all of the details now, but porn has this exponential, or this just immeasurable impact on our dopamine levels in our mind. It's like sugar, basically, what sugar does to our body. This is how I describe porn. Porn is the digital version of sugar for our bodies, and it's not good. Okay, so I'm not trying to preach to you saying quit porn or you must stop it. I do encourage you to really just reconsider the relationship that you have with porn. For me, this was one of the biggest challenges when it came to performance anxiety and erection challenges. So porn was at one of the things at the root, and so I get it personally. Secondly, alcohol. Okay, so these alcohol, the relationship that we have with alcohol can have an impact on our sexual performance, and then also just our performance in life, in everyday life. My ability to focus, or my ability to have vitality and energy, and that of course goes into sex energy as well. So alcohol is another one. Nutrition or diet choice. It sounds so obvious, but it is one that we can't ignore. What am I putting into my body? And if I'm putting in stuff that's not great for my body, then I can expect the results in my body to not be great as well. And then another couple that I wrote down here could be some deficiencies. So actually deficiency would be more internal. So we're going to switch that one to internal. I'll come back to that in a second. Let me just make a note of that. And external medication. So there are some medications that can have a side effect of erection problems or increased anxiety. So that's an important thing to check as well. If you are taking medication for whatever it may be, look at the side effects for that. Does it correlate with when you started experiencing erection problems? Because that could very well be one of the causes. Now, it's unlikely, I do want to say, from the guys that I've spoken with and hundreds of guys that I've chatted with online about this now, it's unlikely that it's just one of those things is the cause for erection problems. It could be, but it's unlikely that it's only an external factor. It's usually a combination of both external and internal. And in my experience, it's the internal It's our mindset that leads us to the external anyway. So usually a combination of both, but it usually starts with internal that leads us to external. And what I mean by that, just to be a bit clearer, is what leads us to over-consuming alcohol? What leads us to over-consuming food that's not good for us? What leads us to over-consuming porn? And each of those are some kind of an escape. We're trying to, it makes us feel better, or it makes us feel less stressed, or we're able to detach from the moment. So we have to think about why we're using that particular vehicle in the first place. And that's what I mean by that part. Why is usually internal. That's usually mindset related. Okay, so let's move on to internal reasons. So just to recap, we've covered that we're answering the question, why has this happened to me? It's related to sexual performance anxiety and erection challenges. And we've said that there's two categories. There's external causes and internal causes. We've just gone through external causes, and now we're going through internal. So first up, let me get two out of the way that in most cases it's not this, but it's an important factor to figure out as well. Medical, and that can include deficiencies. So if something has, let's say I've had an injury, or if something has genuinely gone wrong in my body, there's things called a venous leak, for example. These are rare, but they happen. Or perhaps I have a vitamin deficiency. There's triggers here that can lead to erection problems. That's why it's always important to go to the doctor. I'm not a doctor myself, but it's important to go to the doctor and to see where your testosterone levels are at and just get things checked, to make sure that it's not medical or a deficiency issue, vitamin deficiency or something like that. So I would always advise that. But we're going to put aside for a moment if that was an internal cause. So that's one reason that could be very well an internal cause. But most of the time, the guys that I speak with, and I don't know about you, but most of what I see online is mindset. It's related to the mind rather than it being a medical issue. So what does that mean? What are some of the internal things that can happen related to our mind? Well, anxiety is definitely one. So anxiety can be a big cause for erection challenges. Stress, you see there's a lot of similarities between these things. So anxiety and stress, also experiences that I've had in life. And what I mean by experiences is probably traumatic experiences would be the right way to describe it. This could be in a childhood, or it could be later on in my years. This doesn't even have to be extreme, because you may be in the position of thinking, well, I didn't really have anything that traumatic happen when I was in my childhood. So this doesn't have to be like a one-off scenario that's happened that's caused this, although that definitely can happen. It could also be a build-up of multiple just small things, or things that we've been told we should be like this, or we've been told off in a moment for a particular thing, or we've been shamed or judged. These stacked create these significant experiences, significant emotional events. I prefer that instead of traumatic. So yeah, this can be another internal reason. These things stacked over time, or a big event happening in our life. Fear is also another thing that can lead to erection challenges. And then attachment styles, and attachment styles, you may be familiar with this phrase of attachment styles. And to summarize, it's basically, depending on how we're brought up in the world by our parents or carers, we have different kinds of needs of how we attach with other people. And there's a few categories that are well known of an anxious attachment style or avoidant attachment style. So sometimes these things can also play into what happens then when we start to get intimate or passionate with someone, and how much security we need in that moment. There is one thing when it comes to internal mindset that has stood out to me, and I would have to be crazy if I didn't see this as a pattern now. And I know this was also true for me, for myself, but it's true for most of the clients that I work with and many of the guys that I speak with as well. Safety. Safety is something that seems to come up time and time again. So let me just go into this in a bit more detail because I think this is a really important point. This isn't going to give all the answers, but this is about just understanding a bit more about what is going on. When we think about anxiety, when we think about attachment styles, when we think about experiences in life or fear leading to erection challenges or performance anxiety, what is at the root of all of those things? I feel unsafe. If I'm feeling anxious, it's because I don't feel safe about something. If I've had a bad experience in my life, in that moment, safety was taken away from me. If I have a certain type of attachment style, when I am experiencing performance anxiety or erection challenges, that's my, that part of my attachment style being stretched to a max, and I feel unsafe. I don't feel grounded in that moment. I don't feel present in that moment. I feel unsafe. And then fear, of course, is lack of safety. So there's this real common pattern that comes up around safety. And where does this lead us to now? So there's going to be other reasons for external causes and internal causes. We could create, if we wanted to, a very long shopping list of these things. But I think it's important to just summarize and prioritize, okay, what are some of the key ones in each of those? So we've just gone through those, and we've said for internal causes, safety seems to be a key thing that comes up when it's to do with mindset. Okay, we put medical to the side for a moment and said, go and get the tests done, go and get checked with the doctor to make sure there's nothing medically wrong going on there. That's important. And most of the time it isn't, and it's to do with mindset. And safety seems to play a big part of that. So where do we go from here? And particularly answering that question of why has this happened to me? So hopefully from some of those external and internal causes, you would be able to see almost like looking at it like a shopping list. Yeah, I could see how a little bit of that has played a part. So it may be, for example, my relationship with porn could have played a part in this, and also my nutrition choices. And yes, I've had a couple of experiences in the past that feel quite intense to me, so I can see how that could play a part. Or perhaps it's something like I have quite a lot of anxiety in my life, so I can definitely see that plays a part of it. And also I probably drink a bit more than I should do. And I notice that on those days where I'm hungover, I then go and watch porn. I don't have a great relationship with porn. I watch it to either distract myself or it makes me feel a bit better, but then I usually feel like shit afterwards. So yeah, I can see how it's a bit of those things. So from going through that, I would just like you to reflect on that yourself. And are there 2 or 3 or 4, perhaps even more of these areas that you see, yeah, there's a bit of that going on in my life and a bit of that. And so that starts to make sense how this can create performance anxiety or erection problems. And why do I say that? Why is it important to acknowledge that there's probably 2 or 3 or more of these things that are impacting? Because usually there is not one single cause. Just want to say that again. Usually there is not one single cause. And why is it important to acknowledge that? Because sometimes we can spend so long and so much time and energy trying to get to the bottom of what is the one thing that is causing this for me. If I can just find out that one thing, then everything's going to be okay. Or if only I knew what it was that made this specific thing happen in my life, then I can understand it and it will all be okay. And I have to be totally honest with you, my experience is usually there's not one thing, and what we're doing when we do that is we're scared. We're scared of taking a step to address this. And it's totally understandable that we're scared. This is a vulnerable conversation to have. It's a vulnerable thing to be experiencing. Society, almost kind of condemns talking about it, particularly for men. Being masculine, being able to get hard and have these incredible sex and just on demand, it's all or nothing. And it's particularly what the picture of this that porn creates, it's like this unrealistic picture, which we all know in reality is not true. That's not how it actually happens, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help. So it's understandable that it feels scary. And I have to honestly say that I think when we spend so much time trying to figure out the one reason as to why, we have to get honest with ourselves and ask, is there in reality one reason? Is there only one thing? This thing that we're trying to find, are we actually trying to find something, or are we just trying to avoid dealing with this? And this isn't to say that it's bad or wrong or shameful for trying to avoid dealing with this. I'm telling you, it's understandable. I've been there. It took me ages to speak to somebody about this. And when I finally did, as you'll know, that's when everything changed for me. So I just want to first say to you that if you're having a moment of listening to this and saying, yeah, do you know what, actually, I probably am searching for something that doesn't exist, this one reason that doesn't exist, or I'm trying to pin my hopes on discovering this one thing that will solve everything for me. And when I ask myself in my heart of hearts, is that true? Is that real? If you're feeling, yeah, I probably know that's not real. I just want to say I'm with you, and I get it. I get why it's normal to do that and to pin our hope onto one thing. And I also want to say to you that things do not have to stay this way, right? I know that through my own journey and through the guys that I've worked with, actually it takes quite a short amount of time to be able to turn this around. And this isn't a sales pitch, because whether it's me that you work with or with somebody else, what I'm saying to you is there are people who understand because they've gone through this themselves and have a set of tools that will help you to overcome this. I know the tools that I have, I feel confident in the work that I do with men who are struggling with erections and have been for years. And then within a period of usually 60 to 90 days, so we're not talking long, we're able to reverse that so that they don't have to depend on Viagra anymore and can start to feel more confident about having sex and building incredible intimacy in their relationship. So what I'm saying there to you is things don't have to stay this way. Yes, it can feel slightly uncomfortable to have to reach out or to say to somebody, yeah, I am struggling with this. Can feel difficult to put our hand up in the moment. What if people judge me? What if people shame me or make me feel wrong or bad about this? I won't. I can't speak on behalf of other people, but I know that I won't, because I've been there. So I know how this feels. And that taking that slight step out of or into uncomfortability to raise your hand and say, yeah, this is happening to me. And there's also this more important, this bigger part of me that wants to get this sorted, that wants to build an incredible relationship, that doesn't want to have to think about scrambling around for pills the first time I have sex with somebody. I also believe that you have that part of you that is able to take the step into that uncomfortability to then get to the next point. So, in summary, we've spoken about there's external causes for erection problems and performance anxiety. There's internal causes. It's important to see this as there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 or more things that are going on that are causing this in your life, and how it's important to be honest with yourself and say, am I spending too much time trying to obsess and find this, it must be the exact thing, if I can just unlock this exact thing, then everything's going to be okay. And just to use this as an opportunity to ask, is that real? Does that feel true? Is it that there's this one magical rock that we haven't discovered or overturned yet? Or is it that there's a few things going on here and it just feels a bit scary to be able to have a conversation to deal with this and to get it sorted? So that's where we're at. And what I would like to say to you is that if you feel ready to take that first step, then I invite you to complete First of all, what I call the performance anxiety assessment, PA assessment. You may be familiar with this. It's 10 yes or no questions that I've created. This takes you less than 2 minutes. And the reason why this is important is it is a first step on this journey to just getting this sorted, because it will show you where is this impacting your life today, and then what to do about it so that you can avoid having to take pills for the rest of your life, or that you can avoid a feeling of high anxiety or fear when it comes to having sex. You know, you deserve to have the sex that you want. So if you're feeling ready to take the first step and just to raise your hand and say, okay, yeah, I feel ready to do this first bit and to answer these 10 yes or no questions, then you will see in the comments section below, I've put the link to that performance anxiety assessment. So you click on that link, it will take you straight to the page where you access the assessment and answer the 10 yes or no questions. I will then send you your score and also what to do next so that you can get this sorted. If you are not feeling ready right now, or if this feels like, I hear you, but I'm just not at the point, then that's okay as well. The door is open, I'm here for you, and this is about doing things in a way that makes you feel safe. Okay, so if you're ready, it's time to go and do this. Head into the comment section below, click on the link that will take you straight to the performance anxiety assessment, and I will see you there.